The year was 2147, and Earth was dying. Captain Park stood on the bridge of his warship, the Eternal Dawn, and watched the blue planet below. Once it had been beautiful. Now dark patches spread across the continents like bruises on skin. Cities that once glowed with life were dark, silent, dead. The void rot had come from space. No one knew where it started. Some said it came from an asteroid. Others said it leaked from an alien ship passing through the solar system. It did not matter anymore. What mattered was that billions were dying and humanity had no cure. Pressed his hand against the cold glass of the viewport. His wife was down there, his daughter too, both sick, both waiting for a miracle that would never come. "Captain," said his first officer, a tired woman named Admiral Shin, "is on the line." Turned and walked to the communication screen. The face that appeared was old and gray. Admiral Shin had been his mentor, his teacher, his second father. Now the old man looked like a ghost. The void rot had reached him too. The Admiral said, his voice weak, "The Council has responded." Felt a spark of hope. The Galactic Council was a group of powerful alien species that ruled this part of the galaxy. Humanity had only recently discovered that they were not alone in the universe. They had sent messages begging for help. Surely, someone out there had a cure. "What did they say?" asked. The Admiral closed his eyes. "They said no." The spark died, felt cold. "They called us primitives," the Admiral continued. "They said we are not members of the Council. They said our problem is not their concern. They will not help us." Said nothing. What could he say? His people were dying and the universe did not care. "There is more," the Admiral said. "They have forbidden any member species from helping us. They say it would violate their laws. Any species that helps Earth will face punishment." Clenched his fists. "So they will watch us die." "Yes," the Admiral coughed and blood appeared on his lips. "I am sorry, I wanted to give you hope. I have none left." The screen went dark. Stood alone on the bridge, surrounded by stars that suddenly seemed very cold and very far away. 3 days later, Admiral Shin died. Attended the funeral on Earth. He wore a mask to protect himself from the plague, but he knew it was only a matter of time. Everyone knew. Humanity was counting its final days. After the funeral, visited his family. His wife lay in bed, too weak to stand. His daughter, Little, sat beside her mother, holding her hand. Was only 8 years old. She did not understand why everyone was so sad. She did not understand why her mother would not wake up. "Daddy," said, looking up at him with big eyes, "will the angels come to help us?" Knelt beside her. He wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her yes, help was coming, but he could not. "I don't know," he said, "but I will protect you, no matter what." That night the angels came. Was aboard the Eternal Dawn when the sensors detected an unknown ship entering the solar system. He rushed to the bridge, expecting an attack. The galaxy had already shown that it did not care about humanity. Perhaps now it had come to finish them off. But the ship that appeared on his screen was not a warship. It was small and white, shaped like a teardrop. It moved slowly, gently, like a leaf floating on water. "We are receiving a transmission," said. "Play it." A voice filled the bridge. It was soft and kind, like a grandmother telling a story to her. "People of Earth, we have heard your cries, we have come to help." Did not believe it, he could not believe it. "This is a trick," he said. "The Council forbade anyone from helping us." "Yes," the voice said. "We know, we do not care, your people are dying, that is all that matters." The ship landed on Earth the next morning, was there to meet it. He brought soldiers just in case. He did not trust aliens. Why should he? The galaxy had abandoned his people. But when they emerged from their ship, felt his fear melt away. They were tall and thin, with skin the color of silver moonlight. Their eyes were large and gentle like the eyes of deer. They moved slowly, carefully, as if afraid to break something. They wore no armor. They carried no weapons. Their leader was an elder named. She was old even by standards. Her silver skin had faded to white, and she walked with a cane made of crystal, but her eyes were bright and full of warmth. "Captain Park," she said, bowing her head, "we bring medicine, we bring hope, we ask for nothing in return." Stared at her. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you risk punishment from the council? Why would you help strangers?" Smiled. It was a sad smile full of old memories. "Because long ago, when our people were young and weak, someone helped us. They asked for nothing. We survived because of their kindness. Now we pass that kindness to you." They stayed for 6 months. They worked day and night, teaching human doctors how to make the cure. Doctor, Earth's greatest scientist, worked alongside every day. She learned not just medicine, but wisdom. She learned that the universe was not all cold and dark. There was light too. You just had to look for it. The plague ended. Billions had died, but billions more were saved. Earth would survive. On the day they left, personally escorted their ship to the edge of the solar system. He stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn and watched the small white teardrop grow smaller and smaller. "Elder," he said into the communicator, "I do not have the words to thank you." "You do not need words," replied. "Just remember us, that is enough." "We will remember," said. His voice was thick with emotion. "I promise you, Elder, humanity will never forget what you did for us. Never." The ship disappeared into the stars. The universe continued to spin. The Galactic Council noted this disobedience but decided the punishment could wait. After all, what threat was Earth? They were primitives. They would fade away soon enough. Humanity did not fade. Humanity remembered. And in the dark spaces between stars, humanity began to build. 100 years passed like a whisper. Fleet Admiral Menu stood in the great hall of Terran Command, looking at the portrait on the wall. It showed a young captain in an old uniform, standing on the bridge of a ship that no longer existed. Captain Park, his grandfather. Menu had never met the man, had died long before Menu was born, but Menu had grown up hearing stories. Stories about the plague, stories about the dark days when humanity almost ended, and stories about the silver-skinned angels who came from the stars to save them. "You made a promise, grandfather," Menu said quietly to the portrait. "I intend to keep it." Behind him, the doors opened. Commander Lee walked in, her boots clicking on the marble floor. She was young and sharp, with eyes like a hawk and a mind like a computer. Some called her cold. Others called her ruthless. Menu called her necessary. "Admiral," she said, saluting, "the monthly report is ready." Menu turned from the portrait. "Tell me." Activated a holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, filled with dots of different colors. Red dots marked the territories of the Galactic Council. Blue dots marked human colonies. There were many blue dots, far more than anyone outside of Earth knew. 47 colony worlds are now fully operational, said. Industrial output has increased by 12%. The Shadow Fleet now numbers 3,000 vessels, and Project Remembrance is ahead of schedule. Minu nodded. Project Remembrance. It was humanity's greatest secret. Deep in the asteroid belts, far from any prying eyes, humanity was building something. Something the galaxy had never seen. "What about the Council?" Minu asked. "They still do not suspect. They believe we have 20 colony worlds and a few hundred ships. They think we are farmers and traders, too primitive to be a threat." Minu smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good, let them think that." For 100 years, humanity had played a careful game. They smiled at the Council. They bowed their heads. They traded fairly and followed every rule. On the surface, they were the perfect, quiet neighbors. But beneath the surface, they prepared. The medicine had changed everything. Human scientists had studied it, learned from it, and improved it. They did not just cure the plague. They unlocked secrets of biology that the Council species had taken thousands of years to discover. From medicine came biotechnology. From biotechnology came new materials, new fuels, new weapons. And from weapons came ships, so many ships. Admiral said, her voice hesitant, there is something else. Speaker. Our intelligence agents have reported movement in space. The Empire is mobilizing its fleets. Minyu's eyes darkened. They were the opposite of where they were gentle and kind, they were brutal and hungry. They were conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. The Council tolerated them because they were powerful, and the Council was afraid. Where are they moving? Minyu asked. Hesitated. Then she pointed at the map. Her finger landed on a small green dot at the edge of Council space. Prime, she said. Minyu felt something cold settle in his chest. For 100 years, humanity had watched them from afar. They could not contact them openly. The Council was still watching, still suspicious. But they had sent gifts in secret. Medicine, technology, warnings about threats. They had received these gifts with confusion and gratitude. They did not know who was sending them. They did not need to know. Humanity asked for nothing in return, just as they had asked for nothing long ago. Why would they attack Minyu asked, though he already knew the answer. Because they are weak, said. They have no military, no weapons. Their world is rich with resources and beautiful beyond measure. They see them as prey. And the Council? The Council has done nothing. They say it is an internal matter. They say they should negotiate peacefully. Minyu laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Negotiate with that is like asking a lamb to negotiate with wolves. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, they were living in fear. They had shown humanity kindness when no one else would. They had risked everything to save strangers, and now the universe was going to let them die. Not if Minyu could help it. Send a message to Ambassador, he said. Tell him to watch the Council closely. I want to know exactly what they do when they make their move. And if they do nothing? Asked. Minyu turned to look at her. His eyes were hard as stone. Then we will do something. Later that night, Minyu visited his grandmother. She was old now, over 130 years, but medicine had kept her alive and strong. She sat in a garden filled with flowers, reading an old paper book. Grandmother, Minyu said, sitting beside her, I need to ask you something. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen a century of pain and hope. Ask. You were there when they came, when they saved us. What were they like? The old woman smiled. It was the same smile Minyu saw in old photographs of his grandfather, the same warmth, the same gratitude. They were kind, she said. So very kind. They had nothing to gain from helping us. The Council had forbidden it. They could have been punished, even destroyed, but they came anyway, because they could not bear to watch us suffer. She reached out and took Minyu's hand. Your grandfather made a promise that day. He said we would never forget. He said we would repay their kindness, no matter how long it took. I remember the promise, Minyu said. Do you? His grandmother looked at him with sharp eyes. Then you know what you must do. They are in danger. The Council will not help them. The galaxy will watch them burn. Minyu nodded slowly, but humanity will not. No, his grandmother squeezed his hand. Humanity will not. We waited 100 years, Minyu. We built our ships. We trained our soldiers. We grew strong in the shadows. Now the moment is coming. The moment your grandfather prepared for. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. When the Council does nothing, you must act. You must show the universe what humanity truly is. Not farmers, not traders, not primitives to be ignored. What are we then? Minyu asked. His grandmother smiled, and in that smile was 100 years of patience, 100 years of preparation, 100 years of a promise kept in the dark. We are the ones who remember, she said, and we are the ones who repay our debts, in full. Minyu left the garden that night with his grandfather's promise burning in his heart. Across human space, 3,000 warships waited in the darkness. Millions of soldiers trained for a battle they prayed would never come. But deep down, they all knew the day was coming that had helped humanity once, and humanity would help them back. No matter the cost. The sky above Prime was the color of honey and lavender. Two suns hung in the heavens, casting gentle light over endless fields of silver grass. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks covered in crystals that sparkled like diamonds. It was the most beautiful world in the galaxy. Everyone said so. Lieutenant walked through the capital city trying to look like he belonged. He wore the simple white robes of a citizen. His skin had been treated with chemicals to appear silver. From a distance, he could pass as one of them. Up close, anyone could see the truth, but they were too trusting to look closely. Was a spy, one of many that humanity had placed throughout the galaxy. For 20 years he had lived among the watching, learning, waiting. He had grown to love these gentle people. They were everything humanity wished it could be, kind without reason, generous without limit, peaceful without weakness. But their peace was about to end. Stopped at a small and ordered a cup of sweet nectar. The server smiled at him, her silver face glowing with warmth. "Beautiful day, is it not?" she said. "Yes," replied, "very beautiful." He did not tell her that in 3 days warships would fill that beautiful sky. He did not tell her that the fire was coming. His orders were clear. Watch, record, report, do not interfere. Those orders were about to become impossible to follow. Elder stood in the council chamber of the government, reading the latest message from the Galactic Council. Her hands trembled as she held the document. Around her, the other elders waited in silence. "What do they say?" asked Elder, her oldest friend. "Put down the document." Her voice was hollow when she spoke. "They say they have the right to expand their territory. They say we should negotiate. They say they cannot interfere in matters between two species." "But the do not negotiate," Elder said. "They conquer, everyone knows this." "Yes, everyone knows." Looked out the window at the beautiful city below. Children played in the parks. Artists painted in the squares. Musicians filled the air with soft melodies. None of them knew what was coming. "We have no weapons," said. "No warships. No soldiers. We are a peaceful people. We have been peaceful for 10,000 years." "Perhaps we should have built weapons," another elder said bitterly. "Perhaps peace was a mistake." No, his voice was firm. Peace is never a mistake. Kindness is never a weakness. Our ancestors believed this. I still believe it. She turned to face the other elders. "We will not fight. We cannot fight, but we can hope. Perhaps they will show mercy. Perhaps they only want our resources, not our lives." No one believed this, but no one said it out loud. 3 days later, the came. Was in the market when the first explosions hit. The ground shook. Buildings fell. The honey-colored sky turned black with smoke. Around him, citizens screamed and ran, their silver faces twisted with terror. A landing craft crashed through a temple, scattering ancient crystals across the street. Soldiers poured out, massive creatures covered in black armor, their faces hidden behind masks that looked like skulls. They carried weapons that glowed with red light. They did not hesitate. They did not ask questions. They simply started killing. Watched a child run toward her mother, crying. A soldier raised his weapon and fired. The child fell. The mother screamed. The soldier killed her too. Felt something break inside him. His orders echoed in his mind. Watch, record, report, do not interfere. But he was human, and humans do not watch children die. He reached for the hidden blade in his robes. He killed 3 soldiers before they knew what was happening. Then he grabbed as many as he could and led them to safety, into the underground tunnels beneath the city. "Who are you?" a woman asked, staring at him with wide eyes. Wiped the blood from his face. His silver disguise was ruined now. His true skin showed beneath. "I am a friend," he said. "That is all you need to know." Above ground, the massacre continued. The head brought thousands of soldiers and dozens of warships. The head nothing. It was not a battle, it was a slaughter. Elder refused to flee. She stood in the council chamber as soldiers broke down the doors. When they dragged her before their commander, she did not beg. She did not cry. She looked the general in the eyes and spoke with perfect calm. "Why?" she asked. "We have done nothing to you. We have never harmed anyone." The general laughed. "That is exactly why," he said. "The weak exist to serve the strong. This is the law of the universe. Your world is beautiful and rich. We want it. You cannot stop us, so we take it." "The council will punish you," said. "The council," the general laughed again. "The council fears us. They will do nothing. They never do." He was right. At that very moment, the Galactic Council was holding a meeting to discuss the invasion. Speaker after speaker expressed concern. Representative after representative called for calm. And in the end, they voted to do nothing. The matter was too complex. The risks were too great. They were too powerful. Only one representative did not speak. Ambassador of Earth sat in silence, his face like stone. He did not argue. He did not plead. He simply watched, recording every word, every vote, every coward who chose to look away. When the meeting ended, returned to his quarters and sent a message to Fleet Admiral Minu. The message was short, just 3 words. They did nothing. On Prime had managed to save a few hundred. He hid them in deep caves far from the burning cities. But he knew it was not enough. Millions were dying above. Millions more would die tomorrow. He activated his secret transmitter and sent everything to Earth. Every image, every recording, every scream. In the command center of Terran Command, Fleet Admiral Minu watched the transmission in silence. Around him, his officers stood frozen, their faces pale with horror and rage. The images showed cities in flames. They showed children lying dead in the streets. They showed soldiers laughing as they killed the helpless and the innocent. And they showed Elder, the daughter of, being dragged through the ruins of her beautiful world. Minu closed his eyes. He remembered his grandmother's words. He remembered his grandfather's promise. He remembered the story of the silver-skinned angels who had come to save humanity when no one else would. "Admiral," Commander Lee said quietly, "what are your orders?" Minu opened his eyes. They were filled with something that made even step back. It was not anger. It was something older, something deeper. It was the cold, patient fury of a species that had waited 100 years for this moment. "Wake the Black Fleet," Minu said. "All of it, every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have built in the darkness." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were bright and cold. Somewhere among those stars they were dying. Somewhere among those stars they were laughing. Somewhere among those stars the council was looking away. "Not anymore. They helped us when no one else would," Minu said. "They asked for nothing. They risked everything. And now the universe wants to watch them burn." He turned to face his officers. His voice was quiet, but it filled the room like thunder. "Send the message to all human forces. We move in 48 hours. They wanted to teach the galaxy about strength. We are going to teach them about debt. And humanity always pays its debts." The Black Fleet began to wake. 3,000 warships, 10 million soldiers, and 100 years of preparation finally unleashed. The universe was about to learn what humanity remembered. Empress Vila of stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Hunger, and smiled at the burning world below. Prime was almost conquered. A few pockets of resistance remained in the mountains and caves, but they would be crushed soon. They were broken. Their beautiful world now belonged to the Empire. "Your Majesty," said General, her most trusted commander, "we have captured Elder. She is being brought to you now." Vila nodded. "Good. I want her alive. She will watch as we remake her world in our image. Then she will serve in my palace as a trophy." Hesitated. "Your Majesty, there is something else. Our deep space sensors have detected unusual activity at the edge of the system." "What kind of activity?" "Ships, Your Majesty, many ships. They are emerging from hyperspace in large numbers." Vila frowned. "Council ships. Have those cowards finally decided to act?" "No, Your Majesty. The energy signatures do not match any council species." Looked at his, confusion on his face. "They appear to be human." Vila laughed. "Humans, those primitive farmers, how many ships could they possibly have? 50, 100. "The count is still updating, Your Majesty." His voice had become strange. Quiet. 500, 1,000, 2,000. Vila stopped laughing. 3,000, whispered. 3,000 warships, Your Majesty, and more are still coming. The sky above Prime lit up with fire. Not the fire of destruction, but the fire of arrival. Thousands of ships emerged from hyperspace, filling the void with metal and light. They were massive vessels, dark as night, covered in weapons that glowed with terrible power. Each one bore the same symbol on its hull, a blue planet wrapped in silver wings. The flag of Earth. On the bridge of the TDS Remembrance, Captain Song watched the fleet scramble into defensive formation. They had 300 ships, impressive by galactic standards. Against humanity's fleet, it was nothing. "Captain," said her communications officer, "Admiral is ready to broadcast." "Put him through to all channels. I want every ship in this system to hear this. Everyone." The voice of Fleet Admiral Minu filled every speaker on every ship in the system. It was calm and cold, like the voice of a judge reading a death sentence. "Empire, this is Fleet Admiral Minu of the Terran Armada. 100 years ago, when humanity was dying, one species helped us. They came to our world when no one else would. They saved us when everyone else looked away. They asked for nothing in return." There was a pause. The fleet had stopped moving. Even Empress Vila stood frozen, staring at her. "Those people were Minu continued. "You have attacked them. You have killed them. You have burned their world. And you believed no one would stop you. You believed the universe would watch in silence as it always does." Another pause. When Minu spoke again, his voice was harder. "You were wrong." The first wave of Terran ships opened fire. The void exploded with light. Empress Vila had never seen weapons like these. The Empire had conquered dozens of worlds. They had fought countless battles. They had never lost. They lost now. Terran weapons cut through shields like they were paper. Ships exploded by the dozen, their crews never even seeing what killed them. The eternal hunger shook as missiles struck its hull. Alarms screamed. Soldiers died. "Return fire," Vila shouted. "All ships return fire." The fleet fought back. They were warriors. They did not know how to surrender. But for every Terran ship they damaged, 10 ships died. For every human soldier that fell, 1,000 joined them. Captain Song led her squadron through the heart of the formation. Her ship was the Remembrance, named for the promise humanity had kept for 100 years. She was a small woman with soft features, but her eyes were iron. Her grandfather had been a boy during the plague. He had watched his parents die. He had been saved by medicine. She had been raised on that story. Every human soldier had been raised on that story. "All ships," said into her communicator, "remember why we are here. Remember who we are fighting for. They gave us life. Today we give it back." Her squadron destroyed 17 ships in 3 minutes. On her flagship, Empress Vila watched her empire fall apart. Half her fleet was already gone. The rest were retreating, breaking formation, running for their lives. The humans were everywhere, moving with perfect coordination, striking with merciless precision. "How?" Vila whispered. "How is this possible? They were primitives, they were nothing." "Your Majesty," General said, blood running down his face from a head wound. "We must retreat. The battle is lost." "Lost?" Vila turned to him, her eyes wild. "Lost. They do not lose. We are the conquerors. We are the strong." "Not any more, Your Majesty." The bridge exploded. Vila was thrown to the ground. When she looked up, she saw Terran soldiers cutting through the wreckage. They wore black armor and carried weapons that glowed blue. They moved like ghosts, silent and deadly. One of them stopped in front of her. He removed his helmet. He was a young man with tired eyes and a hard jaw. "Empress Vila of," he said, "you are under arrest for crimes against the people. You will be taken to Prime to face judgment." Vila tried to stand, tried to fight. A Terran soldier knocked her down with a single blow. "You cannot do this," she spat. "The Council will never allow it. You are violating 100 laws." The young soldier looked at her. His face showed no anger, no hatred, just cold, absolute certainty. "The Council watched the die and did nothing," he said. "Why would we care what they allow?" The battle ended 3 hours after it began. The fleet was destroyed, 300 ships burning in the void. Empress Vila was in chains. Her generals were dead or captured. The Terran Armada turned toward the Galactic Council. In the Great Council chamber, representatives from 100 species watched the news in horrified silence. The Terrans were coming, not to attack, not yet, but their ships were forming a line along the border of Council space. 3,000 warships waiting. Fleet Admiral Minu appeared on the central screen. Behind him, the fires of the fleet still burned. "Members of the Galactic Council," he said, "we have destroyed the military. Their empress is our prisoner. There is blockaded. They will never harm anyone again." The council representatives looked at each other. Some were relieved, some were terrified, all were silent. "But we are not finished," Minu continued. 100 years ago, when my people were dying, you voted to let us die. You called us primitives. You said we were not worth saving. One species that helped us anyway. And when they attacked them, you did nothing. You watched them burn and called it a complex matter." His voice grew harder. "We are not here to ask for justice. Justice would mean too many of you would hang. We are here to deliver a warning." He leaned forward, his eyes filling the screen. "The showed kindness to strangers. Because of that kindness, humanity survived. If any species anywhere in this galaxy shows such kindness to the helpless and you let them suffer for it, you will face us. There will be no negotiation. There will be no debate. There will only be war." He paused. "We are humanity. We do not forget those who help us, and we do not forgive those who watch our friends die." The screen went dark. The council chamber remained silent. 100 species looked at each other, and for the first time in galactic history, they felt something they had never felt before. Fear of the primitives, of the farmers, of the species they had left to die 100 years ago. Of humanity. 5 years had passed since the war. 5 years since humanity had shown the galaxy what it truly was. Young Officer Jin Ryu stood at attention in the morning sun, his dress uniform perfect, his face calm. Behind him rose the Memorial of Kindness, a tower of white crystal that reached toward the honey-colored sky of Prime. Around him stood hundreds of other soldiers, humans and side by side, waiting for the ceremony to begin. The memorial had taken 3 years to build. It was covered with names, millions of names, every who had died in the massacre, every human who had died in the liberation, every soul who had paid the price for kindness. At the base of the memorial, carved in stone that would last forever, were 8 simple words. They helped just once. That was enough. Jin had been born after the war. He had never seen the burn. He had never heard the screams of the dying. But he had grown up on the stories. Every human child grew up on the stories. The stories of the plague, the stories of the stories of the debt that humanity had paid in blood and fire. A gentle hand touched his shoulder. Jin turned and saw Elder standing beside him. She was old now, her silver skin faded to pale white, her body bent by age and sorrow. But her eyes were still bright, still full of the warmth that had defined her people for 10,000 years. "Young human," she said softly, You stand so straight, so serious. Are all your people like this?" Jin allowed himself a small smile. "When we are on duty, Elder, the rest of the time we are as foolish as anyone." Laughed. It was a sound like bells, pure and clear. "Your people came to save us, 3,000 warships, 10 million soldiers, and yet you call yourselves foolish." "We had a debt to pay," Jin said. "Nothing more." "Nothing more," shook her head. "You could have conquered us, you could have made us your servants, you had the power, instead you freed us. You helped us rebuild, you asked for nothing in return." She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death and too much kindness. "Just as we asked for nothing long ago." The ceremony began. President Han of Earth walked to the stage, flanked by Admiral Minyu and Elder. Behind them came representatives from a dozen species, those who had chosen to stand with humanity after the war. They were few, but they were growing. President Han was a small woman with gray hair and a voice that could fill a stadium. She stepped to the podium and looked out at the crowd of humans and soldiers and civilians, young and old. "5 years ago," she began, "humanity did something the galaxy had never seen. We went to war not for land, not for power, not for resources. We went to war because someone had been kind to us, and we refused to let them suffer for it." She paused, letting the words settle. "The Galactic Council called us primitives. They said we were too young, too weak, too unimportant to matter. They were wrong. We matter. Not because of our ships or our weapons or our technology. We matter because we remember." The crowd was silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. 100 years ago, when our world was dying, they helped us. They risked everything. They asked for nothing. And because of their kindness, humanity survived. Today, they stand with us again. Not as saviors, not as servants, but as partners, as friends, as family. President Han turned to Elder. The old woman stepped forward, her crystal cane clicking on the stage. "My mother was," said. "She led the mission to Earth 100 years ago. When she returned home, the Council punished her. They stripped her of her position. They called her a traitor. She died in disgrace, known only to her own people as a kind old woman who had done something foolish." Her voice grew stronger. She was not foolish. She was brave. She saw a dying world and she could not look away. She gave humanity the gift of life, and humanity has given us the gift of protection. My mother's kindness has been repaid 1,000 times over. She looked at the memorial, at the millions of names carved in white crystal. "We lost so much," she said. "So many of our people died, our cities burned, our children screamed, but we did not lose hope, because humanity came, because someone remembered what we had done, because kindness, true kindness, is never truly forgotten." After the ceremony, Jin Ryu remained at the memorial. The crowds had gone. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. He stood alone before the tower of crystal, reading the names of the dead. Footsteps approached. Jin turned and saw Admiral Minyu walking toward him. The admiral was old now, his hair white, his face lined with age, but his eyes were still sharp, still hard. "Officer Ryu," the admiral said, "you served well today." "Thank you, sir." Minyu stood beside him, looking up at the memorial. "Do you know why I chose you for this post?" "No, sir." "Because you understand." Minyu's voice was quiet. "The war is over. They are rebuilding cities with their own hands. The council has given us a seat at their table. We have won. But this," he gestured at the memorial, "this is not about winning. This is about remembering." He turned to face Jin. "Your generation will carry this forward, long after I am gone, long after everyone who fought in the war is gone. You will tell the stories. You will keep the promise. You will make sure humanity never forgets." Jin nodded slowly. "I understand, sir." "Good." Minyu smiled, and for a moment he looked like the young captain he had once been. "Because the galaxy is still watching. They are afraid of us now. They think we are monsters hidden behind a mask of kindness. They are wrong." What are we, sir? Minyu looked back at the memorial, at the names, at the promise carved in stone. We are human, he said. We make mistakes, we fight, we fail. But when someone shows us kindness, we do not forget. And when someone hurts our friends, we do not forgive. That is who we are. That is what the galaxy must remember. He walked away, leaving Jin alone with the dead. Jin stood there until the stars came out. 2 moons rose over Prime, casting silver light across the crystal tower. In the distance, he could see the lights of the capital city. Children were playing in the streets. Artists were painting in the squares. Life had returned to this beautiful world. Because humanity had remembered. Because humanity had paid its debt. Somewhere in the galaxy, other species were watching. Some were afraid. Some were hopeful. Some were already beginning to change, to become kinder, to help the helpless without asking for reward. Because they knew now. They knew what happened when kindness was repaid. And they knew what happened when kindness was betrayed. Jin touched the base of the memorial, feeling the cold stone beneath his fingers. 8 words. That was all it took to change the galaxy. They helped just once, that was enough. He saluted the dead. Then he turned and walked back to his post, ready to keep the promise for another day, ready to remember. Ready to be human. Far away in the cold space between stars, a species was dying, a plague was spreading, a world was crying out for help, and somewhere in the darkness a small ship was changing course, a species that had heard the stories, a species that had learned the lesson. They were going to help just once. And somewhere in the galaxy, humanity smiled. The cycle continued. The kindness spread. And the universe slowly began to change.